Alright, so this is like totally off the cuff. I have no idea when or where I'm going to post this, but I just felt like I had to talk about something because I'm seeing it sort of pop up in a few places, or people that I follow and just kind of like dodging Twitter. But basically, I just want to talk for a few minutes about something that's kind of bothering me right now. And the primary thing is it's obviously related to Starfield. I'm literally like, so I'm like 46 episodes into so One Piece. This is totally off topic. One Piece released today. I'm like 46 minutes into it, and I just like looked at Twitter briefly, and and I saw something else about Starfield, and I'm just like, so currently to give context, right now it is like 25 minutes to 10 on the 31st of August. So for me and everyone else who's bought or paid for early access or isn't on Game Pass or anything like that, doesn't have access to Starfield right now. About 4.5 hours ago, the embargo lifted for Starfield, so obviously reviews and could go out, and obviously loads of people are streaming it. But that's also meant that it's now basically being openly discussed by people that obviously have played it, and I don't think that's a terrible thing because it's kind of like people can get informed, they can kind of learn about. Reviews are good to kind of guide their purchase. Is it something they want to get right now? What can they find out about it right now? I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with seeing screenshots or some video footage. What I do have a bit of a problem with, though, is that it kind of feels like, for some, it's being treated like everyone's been playing the game for like a week. And I find that really frustrating because there's tons of people that, like I said, most people like myself and other people haven't been playing, like, have not played it for a single second. No one has been able to load the game because the early access period hasn't started yet. And for me and anyone else in Europe, I'm in the UK, and anyone else in Europe is like an hour or so ahead of me. It doesn't unlock till 1 a.m. for me, so in about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, I guess. And then obviously for Europe, it's, they're an hour ahead. So for them, it's 2 a.m. And so it's not really viable for most people, in these regions to actually even play any of it today. But yet, people that have been playing it for like 50 hours, maybe up to 100 hours, are just kind of posting screenshots and some of those videos. And it just kind of feels a bit disrespectful. Like, I get that people have got, like, they're excited to share, and I think that's really cool, and I think that speaks to their view on the game, and their enjoyment of it. But I think this kind of this is like a broader topic that I want to talk about at some point anyway. Just spoilers in general. Like, I have to admit, like, I am really picky with spoilers. Like, I'll be totally honest. I am like, a lot of the time, when I've seen enough of a game, like, I've seen enough, I don't necessarily want to watch anymore. It doesn't mean I won't. But I'm very, and I can't, like, I don't expect everyone to kind of, you know, follow that. So, everyone to be like, okay, like, let's play by Josh's rules. It's like, I don't expect that. Like, I understand people want to talk about it, but there's a bit of a difference here when it's like a huge game release. One that, it's been what, like 7 years or 8 years since Bethesda's like last big game being like Fallout 4, and if you count Skyrim before that, it's even further beyond that. It was back in like 2011, I think, was it 2012. Um, and so this is a game that a lot of people have been very excited for. And not only that. Now, I guess if you're on PlayStation, you haven't got an Xbox or a PC to play it on. Like, that's kind of a difficult situation. It's anyways. Like, I don't. But some people might not be getting an Xbox till this weekend, for example. I mean, I don't. I'm sure many people are in their own situations, and not that we have to account for all those people, because I don't think you can. But when most people that are interested in and looking forward to the game and have it pre-ordered and are ready with the early access and the collector's edition and all that, when most people have access, or are going to be playing it, and currently they don't have access to it, I think it's a bit unfair to be posting so many screenshots. I've seen, like, some people posting like upwards of 10, 20 screenshots of various things, and I know people want to see the game and they're curious about it, kind of thing. And some don't care about spoilers. Some just want to see what's posted there. But I'm like, but I feel like if you're interested in a game, why do you want to know stuff that's in it? Like, if you've already got it pre-ordered, what, are you going to suddenly cancel your pre-order at the last minute just because something's come out about it? You might, but it's like, the chances of that happening probably are very low. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's been bothering me, and I thought about this earlier, sort of in relation to. I remember this happened last year, but like Call of Duty, for Modern Warfare 2, they held a Call of Duty Next, I believe they called it, that they had like a live stream. It's like a showcase, and afterwards they followed it up with like you could watch like content creators and streamers and everything playing the game live, and they had like hosts there and everything like that. But if you weren't there, you weren't a content creator that was lucky enough to go to this, you have to wait until the following day when the beta actually opens. And I think at that point it's only PlayStation, so it's not only is it limited in terms of only content creators at this particular event, so very hand-picked, selected. Not only do those have to get it, you've also got people outside of that, that if people have pre-ordered, but honestly you have to pre-order it as well to access, unless until they do like an open one, which is like several weeks down the line. So you have to wait, and I just find like why don't you let everyone capitalize on the hype? You like have a cool showcase, let the streamers start playing, and open up the beta in the game, and so people can jump in and maybe get into some of the matches with some of those content creators. You could have something fun going on in the beta, something to earn. Like you could do something more interesting about it and get everyone involved. But instead, what we see is this very selective, like, oh no, you're not allowed the game. Oh no, you have to wait because you're not a content creator. And I don't think there's anything terrible with this. Like, I actually, to be totally upfront, I don't think there's anything wrong with reviewers getting the game early. I don't think there's anything wrong with content creators and streamers getting the game early. What I think I do have a problem with, though, is that when someone is reviewing a game, a lot of the content of what's in that review is contained within the review. You're not going to find parts of that review. You might find parts of it floating around the internet, people screenshot it and share it, but generally that review is contained within that article or within that video. And so if you don't want to watch or you don't want to read it, then you don't go there. I personally I don't like sometimes how some people review games because they can be a little bit too open about what's in the game, but at the same time, I know how difficult it is to write something without kind of talking about anything, and so it's a fine line to walk. And a lot of people, primarily, most I think generally, the main spoiler people care, or the main kind of spoilers people care about are story spoilers. For me, it's a little bit more like I don't want to necessarily know mechanics. I don't want to know when you get something. I want to just kind of have a pure experience and just kind of play it all myself. I don't want, and even some of the opinion thing, I don't necessarily like the sort of having any kind of expectations set by like, oh yeah, Act 3 or like the six hours into the game it gets really good, or like something made me cry at the end. Like stuff like that kind of bothers me because it already sets you up for being like, oh, what's that person mean? What are they referring to? And you know, you could say that's just me being very picky, but I do understand that I have a very particular distaste and dislike of certain spoilers, and but I'm also very reserved about a lot of this stuff, and I'm very kind of cautious, even when talking to other people that I know aren't bothered by it. I still kind of like to preserve some of that because I do believe that even if people say they don't care about spoilers or they don't care about something, it's like, yeah, but you rob them of that expectation, of that experience, and it's just like, just let them go in and appreciate and enjoy it for what the experience is going to give them, whether it's TV, film, or even a game, or even a book. Not that I haven't read a book in ages. Um, and so yeah, so like in this, so I think it's fine with like reviewers getting the game early because they can also help advise people whether it's something worth buying, whether you should wait for, with a lot of games over time in the last few years haven't been releasing in the greatest state, particularly on PC. So do you want, that can be a good, that can inform you good on that. Even that can't be great though sometimes because you sometimes get games like Elden Ring that have bad performance somehow and get like really high scores. And so, but generally, like, I understand the point of like people getting games early and being able to play them and talk about them. Uh, and I think that's totally fine, and they're playing, and a lot of the time it's very kind of like you're under NDA, you can't say anything, it's very kind of tight-lipped, and some games have multiple embargoes where they're like, okay, after this embargo you can talk about these things, and then after this embargo you can talk more about what comes after that. And I think those embargoes are good, even if they can be restrictive. I think it's good that developers do that because it just shows that they kind of want to keep certain things under wraps, and I appreciate that personally. To kind of keep as much of the experience as kind of fresh for as many people. Um, but it's like, not only do you have like the marketing of a game that you don't know until you play the game how much it's actually showing, I think it's really unfair, especially for a game like Starfield, when people are like out there being like, you know, oh yeah, look at all the creatures you can find in this place, and like, oh look at these armor sets I've found, all these weapons, and it's like, come on, like really, like, does anyone actually want to play the game for themselves and experience it? I get this almost to share that kind of thing, but it's like, you could give it more time. Like like, and I strongly believe this, and I don't think much would change my opinion about this because it's just like, no, you should let me. You've got a review, you've got a video, you've got places you can share this that is not on social media, that can't be shared and retweeted and screen. It's just limiting that and slowly rolling things out, and there's enough time to talk about that. It's not like everything has to be spoken about tonight before anyone gets their hands on the game, and I do think it's a problem, and I think it's something that should totally be controlled. But then you never know, it could work very well for advertising, so maybe from a PR standpoint, maybe that's good. The one other thing that I want to touch upon here, um, is just in terms of like streamers, like how does that work? Because I actually find this is another something that I know a lot of streamers, maybe a lot of people would actually disagree with me here, but I think the difference with people streaming the game, right, is that if they're able to stream it ahead of time and they're not restricted and they can play as much as they want, and as it seems to be the case as far as I understand it, but I'm not, I don't know what the embargo contains. There might be some stuff that actually can't be spoken about right now. It could be like that, to be totally fair. Um, but it's kind of like when streamers, like people are right now streaming the game and they're going to be playing it all throughout the night and probably into the morning, like my time, which means a lot of that stuff is going to be like easily shared. It's going to be found out. It's going to reveal anything in the early hours. Now that might not be a problem, but what it means is these people are ahead. And the one thing I don't like is when, if I want to watch a streamer play a game, like there's several streamers that I'd be curious to know their thoughts. I'd be curious to see their reactions, which I can always go back to, but they're always going to be ahead of me. And so if I don't have enough time to keep up with them and I want to go and see where they're up to, I can't, because I risk spoiling stuff for myself. Now, obviously, it's a game where you can kind of go off on your own path, but just a bit, it's not really a spoiler, but I'm seeing a lot of recommendations that everyone, for Starfield in particular, everyone should finish the main quest because there's stuff it's better enjoyed after that point, apparently. And so that's kind of, and which I don't think is, I mean, that's one of those things where I'm like, I kind of wish I didn't know, but at the same time, I think that is a nice thing to know, so I'm not really, like, that doesn't bother me really. And it keeps me kind of in the mindset of like, okay, maybe I'll try and push for the main quest being finished first, and I'll kind of like dip in and outside stuff as I go. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I just with streamers, it's like, okay, so with them being able to play it like from when the embargo was lifted, because they're ahead, it means, well, now I don't really want to watch their stream because I want to wait until the game's out. But now they're always going to be ahead of me and probably will be ahead of me probably forever, permanently, because of that short term. Now I'm sure I could really grind it out and binge like a whole like several like a whole day where I try and catch up, but I don't want to do that. Like, I want to take my time with the game, and that's all on me, right? But what it means is that in the meantime, everyone's at different points, and which I don't even know if that's a bad thing, but more what I mean is it's like, I guess the thing that I was thinking about earlier was that there's a everyone was like waiting for the embargo to lift. Like, everyone was like, what's the game gonna score? What's the reviews gonna be like? What do people think of it? And the embargo lifts, but all as we, it's not like everyone's in the same boat where it's like, oh, this is what reviewers think. It's like, all right, the embargoes have lifted, now streamers are streaming it, and then all the simpleton and the layman people get to just like wait. Even though we've all paid for it, even though a lot of us are the ones that have actually got Game Pass, or we're buying the game physically, or we're waiting for the Constellation Edition or whatever to arrive, or whatever it is in your situation, we all have to wait. And I don't know if that's a terrible thing, but I was like, wouldn't it be cool for everyone to have just jumped in today at 5? Like, wouldn't that have been the way to do it? I say 5 my time. Um, I think in America it's like 9 a.m. PST or PDT or whatever, it's in now. But I just feel like, wouldn't it have been cool for everyone to have had like that ability to just like jump in right now and um kind of experience it together, and then you can kind of like play alongside a streamer that you like, or follow a YouTube video, or like, so whatever you want to do. And I feel like that's better for your sense of discovery, because you're playing and then you're seeing what they're doing and you're like, oh shit, I didn't realize you could do that, and and that's better. But what happens is it's like everyone gets to kind of like sit and watch their favorite streamers play the game while they have to wait. And in my case, it's like, oh, I've got another, like, I've got to go to sleep, right? I could stay up tonight and play it, but it's like, it's gonna be like 1 a.m. I don't want to start and get tired. It's like, I want to actually get up early tomorrow so I can kind of, actually play the game properly. Um, Plus, I've got like One Piece as well, which is kind of what I'm watching. That's kind of what I've stopped watching, so I can come and record this because I just, like I said, it kind of it's bothered me, and I actually posted some tweets before I started recording this, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna record some random thoughts on this. And I guess the elephant in the room is that I haven't recorded the podcast this week. My plan was actually to I might do it tomorrow, is to record the Destiny podcast, but it's gonna be kind of I don't I'm trying to like reevaluate things and try and think of a different approach because I'm kind of like all over the place recently and some stuff has kind of happened. I've been to the doctors back and forth and kind of been all over the place, so I'm just kind of trying to figure out that at the moment. Um, so that's kind of why but I was like, you know what, I want to get these thoughts out. I'm hoping my plan is I'm going to record this. I'm going to quickly throw together a quick thumbnail and I'm just going to export this and get it done and get it posted as a mini podcast, if you will, and just kind of chuck it in the same playlist with everything else. Hopefully tonight, because it's bothering me, and I just kind of think that while most even might not care about this kind of thing, and are like, oh, if you like people like, I guess I haven't addressed that. Like people will be like, oh, just stay off the internet, and it's like, sure, right, stay off the internet, the thing that like is kind of used by everyone at this point, and it's almost like, yeah, you should like restrict yourself, and they're not wrong, right? Inherently, it's like if you don't want to see anything, like stay away from the internet. I'm not against seeing anything. I just feel like it's a little bit unfair for people to just be so freely sharing anything, like, oh, look at this thing I found. I just think it's like, couldn't you wait? I don't know what's being, I don't know what's been said in reviews. I don't know what's going on really there. Um, but I just kind of think when you've got streamers that are playing the game, finding things in the early hours of the game, and I know like there's the whole thing with Starfield where it's like, oh, everyone gets to like the way it generates planets is that I'm pretty sure it generates the terrain differently and it can randomize what you find on the planet, something like that. So I'm sure there's like, I'm sure there's gonna be differences between playthroughs and everyone's gonna have to like people are gonna have a different experience, but it's more like I feel like this kind of stuff is better to play the game first and see it afterwards. You know, like not see loads of things going on and seeing what people are saying on Twitter and then going and playing it. And I guess it's an RPG. I'm sure there's going to be lots of stuff to do in it. And so I don't mean to suggest that it's like, oh, this is like really bad and how dare people like share anything, because I'm sure it's not gonna, it's not totally destroying the game, but I guess you just see things and you just like, come on, like, can we just like, I think more my point is it's like, not don't share anything, it's more like just pump the brakes a little, just slow down a little bit. And I feel like that's what you should do as someone, if you're covering games, just out of respect, you should kind of be like, look, I know people aren't not, most of the people in the world aren't actually playing it right now, rather than just showing them all of what I've experienced so far. It's kind of just like I'm not, and maybe there's a place for that. Maybe you could have your own article or something like that. Maybe it wouldn't get as many clicks or shares or anything, but it's like, come on, is that really what you're gonna do? And I have a personal experience with this on a fairly significant level, and I won't say it here. I actually was going to talk. This is kind of what I was going to talk about at one point, and um, because when I was playing Final Fantasy 16, I was kind of like interested in all the other Final Fantasy games. So I started actually looking around, being like, oh, what is there in the Final Fantasy realm? And I bought a few of the games, and I have them like sat next to me. I actually rearranged my games in my room earlier, so I have all my games to my left. There's a fun trivia about me today. Um, but yeah, I was looking at Final Fantasy sort of games, and I was just curious to see what the PS1 port, well, it's obviously PS4 port, sorry, of Final Fantasy 7, the PS1 game, see what features it had, just in case I'd like, being as like save states and stuff like that. And I went to, I believe it was on DualShock's website, and while I was on there, not only did the picture of this particular article look like a spoiler, I can't tell because it's obviously from Final Fantasy 7 and I have no idea, and it's from the obviously PS1 game, and I didn't really have too much of an issue with that because I was like, I don't know what this means. But I didn't really get too far into the article. But on the right hand side, where they have like their um, what is it called? Like I forgot what they call it. A carousel, I think it might be called, where they have, I don't know if it's exactly the right word, but they just have like a list of other articles they're featuring there, the latest articles, like more from Final Fantasy kind of thing. And one of the titles with this article, which as of when I finished the game, which was about a week or two ago, and I think a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ago, as of the time of like then, I haven't checked it recently. it was still titled the same, and it was literally something like Final Fantasy 16 does X thing happen, and it was very specific about a character and very specific about an event and things like that. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's your title. You're titling your article that." And I know it's meant to be a discussion piece kind of thing, but I think generally it was one of those where I think I actually went back and I had a look at it. And so I can't quite remember if this is 100% accurate, but I'm pretty sure when I went back and had a look at it after I finished the game, I kind of like, not only was I was like, oh my god, the title is still the same, but I was like, I read at the end, and what the summary of the article was honestly total BS because the actual thing that happens in the game kind of puts a very fine point on that thing happening, and their article that was debating whether or not that thing happened pretty much just ended with, yeah, so it did happen. And I'm like, so you wrote an article just for clickbaiting reasons, and that's all it was written for, because it had basically really nothing of substance in, as far as I remember, other than maybe some discussion about the events that happened at the end. But to kind of come across to have that as the title, why don't you just call it like ending explained? Like, isn't that just the simple way? But no, instead we're out here trying to get clicks for things, and that's a really egregious version of it. But bear in mind that was also available within a few weeks of the game being out, and I just think it was such a terrible thing that they chose to have that. And again, it's like if you are someone that likes games or you like media and you actually give a shit for what people feel and what they think about that thing and you want people to experience it, you shouldn't have a title like that. And so, as far as I'm concerned, they clearly don't care what people think. They clearly don't care about people's enjoyment of the game. They're just like, oh, we want it for clicks. And I know that's like the thing that some people say, and again, people say, oh, stay off the internet. But you've got to bear in mind, I was looking up a Final Fantasy VII article about the PS4 port of a PS1 game, and I got spoiled on something in Final Fantasy 16. Like, it's just ridiculous to me. So yeah, I don't think there's too much. I could actually talk for a lot longer. Honestly, it's been a while since I've spoken in like a podcast, so that's and this is actually free flow me. So 21 or 22 minutes on this one topic is actually pretty good. I think if I was doing something like this in my mind, I wish I had like gameplay to go along with it, but it's sort of like I don't have time, and like I should steal someone's Starfield gameplay and just like include that and like have all of the spoilers in the video. Um, but yeah, like I'm just very like personally, I'm very self conscious. Or I'm very kind of like, I don't know if self conscious is the right word, but just I'm very like I consider. I guess I have a lot of consideration for other people's experience and other people that haven't played it, and I often try and skirt around as much as I can of spoilers in particular because I want to kind of preserve the experience for people. And I think if ultimately, if you don't want to know absolutely anything, you should stay away from, you know, reviews and everything. You don't let expectations say don't let kind of your expectations get clouded by someone else's experience or someone else's thoughts. Um, but sometimes it's so difficult to avoid that because sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll avoid it. I won't read the article. I won't go to these places. I won't watch gameplay of it. Like I've jumped in and out of streams, like, but I've not seen anything egregious on streams. I wouldn't say I've even seen anything egregious on posts. But the difference is, right, is that when you're watching someone play the game and they're streaming it or a video, it's one uncut live or past broadcast or whatever version of the game where it's not going to suddenly jump and show you something else that's like later game. You're not going to see something that is actually like, oh, this is something I got from like 2 hours in. This is something I got from like 50 hours in. But posting all this stuff on socials and stuff is going to result in that. It is going to kind of give people, like, oh, this is something, and it's like, again, maybe people don't consider like cosmetics and armor like spoilers, and again, that's totally fine. But I think as people, when you're in someone of a particular position and you have a big following, especially, or if you have any friends or anyone that that follows you or is going to kind of look to you for opinions and stuff, I feel like you already have a place where people can go to hear your opinions, and I don't think just sharing loads of screenshots is a really great way of doing it. I think there's better ways of doing this, and a lot of these people, as far as I mean, I've not seen that much overall. There's only been a couple of like areas I've seen kind of that stuff, but I think it was kind of a combination of that on top of the fact that on top of kind of like the sort of streamers getting to play it early, because I just kind of think, is that really? I don't again, I don't think it's terrible, but I just kind of think that, you know, it would be nice for kind of everyone to sort of, you know, join in at the same time. Um, and kind of like all be on board with the hype. I'm actually just looking on Twitter now, just see if anything pops up, if I can have any like decent examples. Um, yeah, like there you go, someone talking about the ships in the game, pretty quickly. Um, and again, it's not like a terrible thing. It's not awful. It's not going to destroy your enjoyment of the game, or like of anything really. But it's kind of just like, I feel like you could be more, cautious with this stuff, and just kind of be like, okay, look, the game's, and this isn't the first time this has happened with. Um, I remember The Last of Us Part Two. There was all the leaks before launch. I think Horizon had a bunch of that stuff spoil ahead of time. Destiny is a good example, because everything is like data. A bunch of stuff is data mined for the season. I really kind of like. I kind of want to check it out, but I'm also like, I don't want to. Like, I want the game to, and that's a problem in itself, and that, people in the Destiny community know about that. But there's people that actually have started getting a following because they post about leaks. And the thing is, it's not just leaks at this point. It's like, no, it's stuff that's in the game that, rather than let people experience that first, it's just going to be kind of spoiled and let out there. And I guess if it was really that much of a problem, I feel like it would be prevented. But I don't know. I just think that that's a problem. And kind of going back to when I was talking about like streamers getting access to the game early, I don't know if that's necessarily a problem. I just wish it was a bit more controlled, or it's like, oh, okay, these people can play like 2 or 3 hours of the game, and that's all they're allowed to show, but otherwise they'll be carrying on tomorrow. If that's really what they want to do. But I'm just sort of like, I don't know, I feel like it would be better to just kind of wait, Like, it's like, let's be honest, it's one day, and if you're in America, it's like a few hours, and it's in the afternoon or like early evening. So it's just it's some of it's like the time zone thing is a part of it. Well, no, no, sorry, it's not. Sorry, the early access is the time zone, but that, you can't help that. Like, I'm not even complaining about that, because it is a bit annoying that like it launches at 1 a.m. for us. Like, kind of, it was what I was thinking. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if everyone got to play today at 5? The embargo's up, reviews are out, people are checking, or or shortly after that, like something in the realm of like, okay, everyone's kind of getting in, but it's a single player game, right? It's not like this is even a multiplayer game, and so it's not a case of like, oh, I guess some people from this could get like the whole thing of like, oh, you just don't want to be, like early left behind kind of thing. It's like, no, I play games really slowly, honestly, a lot of the time, and I take it, like, it took me like 6 weeks, I think it was, to get through Final Fantasy 16, and it took me a week to get through Last of Us Part 2. It took me about a week and a half to 2 weeks to get through God of War Ragnarok. I don't exactly play games at a very fast speed, but I'm fine with that. But at the same time, when everyone's kind of jumping in at different times, and most people, like, pretty much, I'd say most people, millions of people compared to the hundreds, in the low hundreds, that have probably got to play it early, other than people that have got it early just through scalping and whatever, or getting copies early, like, not counting those, but in terms of people that got on like review copies, I feel like it would just be nice to kind of just hold off a bit. And I understand some of it's for advertisement, and I'm sure it'll get the game good. It kind of gets it out there before most people are playing it. But I don't know. It's just something that's been bothering me, and I just think that it would be cool for everyone to, or for as many people as possible, to be all jumping in at kind of the same time, so everyone is experiencing and exploring and learning and discovering things all kind of at a similar time. But it's not. It's like people like me have to wait, basically. I'll say people like me, people like me, in terms of like, if you've got early access, and that's the thing, right? That's the thing else I haven't spoken about. The game's in early access tomorrow, so you actually have to pay like 35 pounds to get in tomorrow. But for most people, it's like you have to wait till the 6th of September. And I'd be curious to know how many people are jumping in with early access, and how many people are actually getting in with the standard 6th of September release date. And that's just kind of a case with the game. It's not like you can't it's not like you're locked out of the game. This isn't a case of like right now where it's like, oh, I literally have Starfield all downloaded. I have the code put in. I actually Game Collection delivered my premium edition upgrade for the early access. Like I got that today, so I actually got it a day early. That's another thing to consider as well. Some people won't even get that until tomorrow as well. If they're getting it on like the normal day, I get Game Collection can be very lucky or very good with that. And so I got lucky with that. But you can still preload it and everything if you have Game Pass or if you buy it digitally. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's all I've pretty much got to say on this. I just think, in general, and I might talk about this further another time because I just think that in general, with spoilers or anything new, there is just a serious lack of consideration for your peers, people that and just followers and all stuff like that. And people do the same with thumbnails on YouTube, titles and videos and articles and all stuff like that. And I really sincerely believe that there's actually a problem here, and it needs a bit more analysis given to it, or a bit more time and a bit more thought, because there's a lot of people, as I said, places like DualShockers, which I just have totally lost all respect. I didn't really use the website too much, but I'm just like, I totally, no offense, I got no respect if you're just gonna do that. Like, I'm not saying you're not a good writer, I'm not saying you don't do good work, but that is really just inconsiderate, and for a game that had only been out for a couple of weeks, I think, at the time of posting that, I think it's really disappointing that was passed through, and again, I know from doing freelance, it's the editors that really will be overseeing that, as far as I understand it, if it works the same way for them as it has with my Eurogamer freelance stuff. So yeah, so I think that's pretty much all I've got to talk about. As I said, I could go on for a long time. I actually kind of like this. Just like something bothered me, let's sit down and talk about it. This could be a nice thing to do for a podcast idea in future. Rather than one long podcast, maybe I can just like pick a topic and like let's just talk about it. But I do want to keep doing the general podcast and talk about what I've been playing, because there's I want to give a home to that, and so maybe that's something we'll keep doing. I guess it would just depend on the urgency of it. And I guess this felt like it was something I just wanted to post out there quickly, and I put out some tweets, as I said, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I should. Feel like I should. I also haven't posted this week as well, so this will just be nice to have this week if I don't get the Destiny thing recorded and posted this week. I think I'm just gonna kind of go by whatever's the next schedule and what's going on. But maybe next week I can kind of do a double episode just to kind of catch up and do Destiny and then games, and then from there on I'll just do Destiny again the following week and then games the following week, and just to keep it that. I've got no idea what my plan is. There's still a bunch of stuff that I want to do, and there's actually a lot going on right now and a lot of different things. Like I was talking about watching One Piece, like there's 8 episodes and they're all an hour long each or something. So I'm like trying to watch that, but I also want to watch the anime first so I can kind of compare it. So I'm kind of like trying, like I think I'm like episode 20 or 21 on the anime, but I'm like obviously 46 minutes into the episode 1 of the live action. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stop and record this thing now, which maybe seems a bit chaotic, um, but I was gonna play some Mario Wonder today. I've also been, that's not Mario Wonder, sorry, Mario Odyssey. By the way, Mario Wonder looks really cool. That's something else that I want to talk about as well. It might be something that I actually get at launch now. Even though I'm getting Spider-Man there, I have the collector's edition pre-ordered right now. I don't know if I'll keep it, but if I do, it's a download code, and I'm like, do I just want a game to play in the meantime? But anyway, that's another thing. I've also been, like I said, playing Mario Odyssey, and I've been playing Dead by Daylight recently as well, which has been pretty fun. Playing a lot of different things. I just haven't spoken about it all yet, and I'm kind of all over the place. I haven't spoken about stuff for about 2 or 3 weeks, and so yeah, I think I'll leave it there, and I'll be back with another podcast, YouTube video, whatever thing, at some other point. So if you've listened this far, by the way, as well, I appreciate it. I'd be really curious. Like, let me know in the comments, like what you or what anyone that's listening to this, what people think about this topic, because I know a lot of the response to this kind of thing is like, oh, just don't go on the internet. And as I said, I just think it's like, I know that's the right thing to do, really, but it's also just like, man, I feel like it speaks to people's total lack of consideration. As I said, that people are just like, oh, I'm just gonna post loads of screenshots of this thing, just because I want to share it, because I have access and everyone else doesn't. And some of it's for informing people, like this is what you can get, but it's like, I feel like there's a better way to do that, right? You've just posted, like, if you've got a review or you've got a YouTube or you've got anywhere else you can post it, why don't you do it there? Why isn't that the place that you're doing? And why don't you give people, and or why don't you, I don't know, do a stream or like gather questions and record like a quick video? Like, I know that's not always easy for people to do, but you know what I mean? But it's like, but if it's not easy for you to do, like, just like, I think it's just like I said, just pump the brakes, just give it a little bit more thought, and just kind of like think, okay, people aren't going to get to play this properly until tomorrow. And by the way, it's not even a case of just waiting for release, right? It's also a case of, because some of this stuff is like later game and things like that. It's not like all straight away in the first few hours. It's like some of it might be like 30, 40 hours in, or like, is it a spoiler? Like, I don't know. I mean, some people wouldn't call it a spoiler, but I'm just like, but just, if you've got it pre-ordered, just let people play it more. Just let people like get in first, enjoy the game, experience it, and then as the dust starts to settle within a day or two, maybe then you could start like posting something like, oh, this is fun. But like, let you have been lucky enough to play a game and cover it early, and admittedly, like, that's work, and that's what maybe you've got to do, and what people are doing, and people are streaming it as well. That's also work. Um, it's a little. I don't really know how I would solve the streamer problem, honestly, or the streamer kind of like avenue of that sort of thing. I do think that waiting closer to release would be the better option. I think it's more enjoyable then. Um, but by the way, and just one other last thing I should mention. I was meant to be wrapping this up, but um, I think the thing that so like, when I was saying like, oh, maybe streamers should have to wait till like the similar time to everyone else, I'm not saying they can't play it early or they can't have any access to anything early. As I said, I think you can have like restricted, like, I get to play it for 2 or 3 hours today, or maybe a month or two before the game comes out. Oh, I've been given, there's a slice of the game that I've got a code to play for. It's like one level, it's like, mid game, and something like that. But I just think there's a lot of restriction put on a lot of these things that I understand a lot of it can be for marketing, but is it really for marketing? Because it's like, surely you'd want everyone jumping in for that in that case. Wouldn't it be cool for like people to stream it and you'd be like, yeah, if you want to play, you can just buy it and play it right now. But instead, it's like, no, you play it. You have to wait for another several few hours, or if you're in the UK, a reasonable time, you have to wait till tomorrow, or Europe or whatever. Um, but I do think it's fine for like streamers and people to be like, to play games early and to go out and be full, go to these events and have, like, I don't think I think, as I said, it's a difficult one to solve, but I just think, especially when there's such a short amount of time, I mean, literally it was 5 when the embargo lifted and the early access begins at 1 a.m. So you're literally talking 8 hours, and it's like, why do streamers get to play it for 8 hours early? Like, I know for them it's really cool and they get to, but it's like, people have already admitted before that like they don't like necessarily, like, some people don't play the game early because they just want to experience it, or when everyone else can play it. They know that a lot of their people that are going to want to play the game aren't going to want to watch them because they want to, or they might watch the beginning and then they'll go. So I don't know how you would sort of spin that, and I don't know how that would be the best way to fix. I don't know how you'd fix that, really, if there really is a fix. But I think ultimately what I'm saying is that I don't have a problem with people getting the game early. I don't have a problem with people playing the game early. I don't have a problem with people sharing thoughts before the game's out. I think that's a good thing. I think that's healthy. But I do think it's a problem when so much can be easily shared without really much moderation, and you kind of can't just guarantee to avoid it, to just avoid it. And sure, stay off the internet is a great solution, but I don't know if it's really, well, it's not a great solution, I should say, but it's a simple one and it makes sense and it's probably correct. And I should make it clear, I don't know if it's clear. Like, I'm not upset. Like, I haven't seen anything. I've not looked even into much anything that I've seen. I've just seen a lot of posts about it, and I just kind of have just tried to I've tried to avoid, stuff for that reason, sort of thing. Um, so yeah, like, I'm not complaining that, like, oh, I've been like totally spoiled and how they, like, I've not looked into a lot of stuff. I'm just seeing these things and I'm like, I think this is a little bit too much. I think people should be a little bit more reserved, and I just think, if you're getting to stream the game, cool. That's cool. Like, it is cool. It's cool. It's like, I'd like early access, but it's like, but why can't you have early access and not play it on stream? And I know that maybe that sounds unfair because it's like, that's their job. That's how they do it. Like, how are they supposed to play it off stream? But it's like, but then, isn't that kind of like what you pigeon yourself up, pigeon? Well, I can't even say it. You corner yourself, I guess, is the way of saying it. Isn't that kind of your? That's kind of like the situation you're in. Like, isn't that the same thing with any NDA, with like talking about it or streaming? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a difficult thing to fix if you can fix it, but there are ways it is done well, and I think one of the ways that is done pretty well. Um, I think is a really cool thing is that every year, whenever we've if you're a Destiny player, in like August we get like a Destiny showcase where they show off the next expansion that's going to launch in about 6 months from that point. Everyone's seeing it for the first time, and often I watch streamers that I follow whilst they're watching it, so I'm there for their reactions, but I'm also there to kind of hang out with the community that I'm fond of and just chill and enjoy the thing with everyone else, at the same time, and then there's that main show finishes, and then they'll have like a post show. But kind of in as the post show's going, the reset time in the game, like the weekly reset, rolls over, and a new season launches at that time. So like in the recent, as it happened just recently, the Destiny 2 showcase on the 22nd, I think it was, of August, um, revealed like the final shape, showed a bunch of information for it, and then right after that, that show started at 5 with the pre-show at 4. So you have pre-show at 4, main show starts at 5. Then the main show kind of ended about 22 quarter to 6, and then they had some Q&A stuff after that that kind of ran for a while, and then after that they had people playing the season live. But by that point, that was already like an hour or so after the season had launched, and the only thing you have to contend with in that situation is that you have to contend with your own internet speed, and if the servers are working, or if there's no if you don't run into any bugs or whatever. But generally, everyone not only gets to see that reveal all together and hang out and with the community, everyone gets to jump into the new season together at pretty much the same time, and everyone's discovering things and finding things out and experiencing the story, the new activities and things like that. And it's a whole, and now that's just how live games work. But it's the exact same with an expansion launch. When an expansion launches, everyone gets to preload it, so that's like another bonus. Um, you usually get to preload it, I think, the day before or a few hours before, and then everyone again jumps in at the same time and experiences that new expansion together and discovers it. And a lot of the time when I'm doing that, I'm like staying off watching people. I'm staying, sometimes I can't miss anything. Sometimes I think people again are a little bit too hasty, too quick with their posting. But again, it's not entirely as bad because at least I'm playing it, and that's more my fault, and I just it's not like I haven't got it kind of thing. Like I have ways to get around it. I may play slow, like I said, I play games slowly a lot of the time, but it's just cool. Everyone kind of gets to experience that at the same time, and you kind of, even if you're slower like me that are playing it, you still kind of get to join in with everyone's experience and thoughts and discuss it as it's coming out. And it's also why I don't like it when all the like One Piece having all the episodes at once. It's really cool for people that can do that, but for people like me that want to watch the anime first, which I've had plenty of time to do that, to be fair, um, or just don't have the time, which is also kind of like me, to watch everything at once, or just don't want to, kind of thing. It sucks because everyone's going to be discussing all the different episodes, and it's like, can't you? Again, this is why I kind of like the weekly drops, or maybe every couple of days. Like, I'm not saying people don't like weekly drops because they want to binge it all at once, but it's like, but again, you don't get to savor each episode. You don't get to watch an episode and be like, man, that was really cool, and talk and discuss about it. I mean, they're an hour long. It's like a short movie, or like half a movie's length. Like, that's a lot that you could discuss at one time. And I think more kind of stuff like that would be nice for everyone to kind of experience things at the same time. But anyway, I am totally rambling on, and I'd be curious, as I said, to know what anyone who's listening to this far thinks. But yeah, tomorrow I should be jumping into Starfield. I am looking forward to it. To see what the game's like. It's been one that obviously has been, it was kind of my most anticipated game. I think as of a few months ago, or a few months ago when they had that showcase back at Summer Game Fest, or around that time, the Xbox and Bethesda showcase or whatever, in June. And yeah, I sort of, it died off a little bit, my kind of hype for it, I guess, because there wasn't really much going on with it. But as it's gone close to release, I'm honestly really curious to jump in. I wish I could have jumped in earlier when everyone else was playing it, but you know, how dare I buy the game early and buy Game Pass just so I can play it? you know, I guess I'm not, I'm not lucky enough to be in a situation of play it whenever all the streamers are playing, and not just, I don't mean just me, by the way. I mean everyone that's in a similar situation. I just think, yeah, wouldn't it be cool for everyone to just jump in at the same time? But that is not the case, and it's not the case with many games as well. That's just kind of how it is, and maybe I sound salty or something, but it's not just me personally that I feel like this with, or that I feel like this, and I feel like I've been wronged. It's not like that. I just think as a community aspect, Especially for a game all about discovery as well. I think that's a key part to underline with my issues here as well. I just think like let everyone explore together and but maybe I'm just dreaming up something that's very unlikely to happen. Anyway, I'm getting pretty tired as well. It is like now 20 past 10. I didn't actually anticipate to be talking for this long, but I'll leave it here. I'm gonna try and get this thumbnail put together, or I'll maybe finish it tomorrow. Depends on how everything goes. It probably won't be uploaded till after midnight at this point, to be fair, simply because with it being as long and getting the thumbnail together and stuff, it might take a little bit longer. But at least I've got something posted about Starfield on the day it comes out, which I wasn't really anticipating. I hadn't planned for this at all. But I'll be jumping in tomorrow. I will hopefully report about my thoughts on next episode whenever I record that. Or I'll write something, or I don't bloody know. We'll get there. I'll find some way of conveying what I think and everything. So yeah, if you've listened this far, thank you. Be sure to check out anything else that you want to check out from this podcast or whatever else. I'll say this podcast. I might just try. So I'm triggering into this playlist. It might should show in the description. It'll be part of a playlist, podcast playlist thing. You can jump in and check out the most recent episodes, but it's been a bit barren the past couple of weeks. Been a bit slow. There's actually a bunch of stuff that I wanted to talk about that I'd written down. My notepad, as I've mentioned, the famous notepad which comes up in like every single episode now. I've written a bunch of stuff down that I wanted to talk about, but it's all kind of it's gone far beyond when that news is probably relevant to talk about. But if I still feel like it's something I want to talk about, I certainly will do. When I record. Sorry. But otherwise, yes. Thank you for listening. Hope you will enjoy Starfield if you're playing this. If you're playing the game tomorrow or when the game's out, like officially, like fully. And I hope you all enjoy. And I will. Thanks for listening, and have a good one. And I'll see you next time. So, ciao, ciao, ciao.